Waiting is an art, and there is a great lesson in having to wait. Waiting teaches us to relinquish our desires and detach from our expectations. It teaches us to have obedience to higher will, to understand that our service is to the world, not to ourselves. It is such a gentle way to teach, and such a profound teaching to be made to wait to receive God's will and God's grace. The act of waiting teaches everything there is to know about spiritual service. We must become comfortable with the pace set for us in our life. We must desire very little for ourselves to have this contentment. And in truth, all of the great spiritual teachers had to wait. Jesus had to wait. Muhammad had to wait. Buddha and Krishna, they both had to wait. They all lived full lives before they came to the altar and manifested the higher will. And this is because waiting is a spiritual art. It shows us with time the true metal of who we are, the true spirit of sublimation. Even if we must wait 1,000 lifetimes, if it is God's will, then let His will be done. As humble servants, although we are full of hope for what might come, we cannot place our expectations in the future, but only content ourselves with daily practice, worship, and sublimation to the higher will. We can only serve in the capacity that we have been called to serve, without desire for ourselves. And if we have great ambition, it can only be to the fulfillment of the higher will in our lives. It is far more important to have peace with God and die in a state of peace and contentment with our life of service than to be full of zealous fire that is unquenchable and full of delusion. It is the cultivation of inner peace and outer harmony that is the true pinnacle of spiritual practice. This is what we should all seek to attain first. Once this inner oasis in the heart has been gained, and this unshakable peace dwells within, only then can we truly focus our minds and commit to this work. So, someone out there is wondering, what is God's purpose for me? What is God's plan? And God's purpose is always towards unity and the attainment of that deep oasis of indwelling peace that lives in our heart of hearts. This peace is the spiritual kingdom of heaven and the garden of truth. It is the tree of life, the nirvana, the attaining of the Tao, the liberation, and the seventh chamber of the interior castle. God dwells within you, and once found, this great spirit creates harmony in your life. The goal of our spiritual practice is always towards the attainment of this union by purifying the heart, that we might know God's peace and receive His presence. This is always God's purpose for us, and only God can know the full spectrum, the depth and width of our heart, who we are, and where we are at in our spiritual growth. So we must trust God's timing and where God has kept us in our lives, that we are learning and growing in the right time. If God wills it, and if God desires it, then this magnanimous mother or father will bring us to that place where full union and divine understanding is granted. Our desire should be to serve for the sake of service and not for reward. To do good for the sake of good, for goodness itself is the reward. As divine servants, it is not our place to anticipate or question. It is only our place to listen and to follow the higher will. The fruit of our labors belong to the One. He gifts us with the desire, the knowledge, and the skills to fulfill the work, and we gift Him with the fruit. That is the balance of spiritual life. So do not be disheartened by the small, everyday acts of charity, sanctity, and holiness that you do. God dwells within us and does everything with us, so every good act is counted. It is by following the little way that we manifest God's greatness within us. And that is the life of the small, everyday saint.